here on Fox Weather. It's the final hour of Weather Command. I'm Stephen Morgan.
And I'm Marissa Torres. Appreciate you deciding to hang out with us on this Wednesday. We just got the latest update to Melissa, tropical storm turning in the central Caribbean.
Yep.
And not much has changed in terms of the current look of Melissa, but a little bit of better insight when it comes to what we expect in the coming days with this currently tropical storm.
Which is expected, the slow strengthening.
Yeah.
Maybe you can make the argument a little stronger. The pressure is just a bit lower, but what matters is those who have interests or those living in Haiti, the Dominican Republic, or Jamaica. They've been given the message, right? Pay close attention to Tropical Storm Melissa, those warm Caribbean waters. We've been saying it this morning. They do act as jet fuel for a storm like this, and a slower moving system has more time to feed on that energy. With the 11 o'clock advisory, we can show you the stats first and then get into the details, which is a concerning trend for Melissa because it is looking to be an even stronger hurricane as we head into next week. But right now, as Marissa had said, it's maintaining its intensity, 50-mile-an-hour winds, that west-northwest movement at just 2 miles an hour. The average adult human walks at 3 miles an hour. So take that for what it's worth. 1,000 millibars, that's the pressure right now, just a little lower as the hurricane hunters this morning have been investigating Melissa. We were wondering if there would be changes to these alerts. Right now, and last advisory, these were tropical storm and hurricane watches. The watches remain, which means as we watch Melissa crawl very slowly toward the islands, we're still looking at a timeline where those hurricane conditions might be a little farther away, but confidence is still there.
Yeah, I think, when you talk about where we have the tropical storm watch for Jamaica and the hurricane watch extending outside of the forecast cone for portions of Haiti, the NHC noting that as early as tomorrow night, maybe we see some of these deteriorating conditions and hurricane conditions in, for example, Haiti. And I do think it's interesting to note that you have Air Force reconnaissance that's been out there observing the structure of Melissa from satellite and noting that the NHC, I finally got an update on the discussion. I refreshed it. And
hey, we can read it on air, too.
You can read it on air.
Yes.
And speaking of, the draft forecast remains challenging today and strong related to the storm structure in the short term. It looks like some of the storms are having a tough time forming around the center, which was also initially hard to find from hunters because of some of the wind shear. Yeah,
the wind shear has been helping keep Melissa at bay and not strengthen like crazy. We know that those warm waters are wild, but this is to the point of what the National Hurricane Center was talking about. Whenever expert analysis on it doesn't take a genius to watch it, but when you see the purples and the pinks, those are really high cloud tops. Notice how there's been a bit of a contraction with those over the last 6 hours or so. We're not seeing as many cold cloud tops with Melissa right now. But back to the track, because this is the biggest nugget that we have associated with Melissa through Saturday. Saturday is when we expect it to become a hurricane. But then as we head into Monday, Melissa now expected and forecast to become a major hurricane. That would be a Category 3 hurricane, 120 miles an hour. A reminder that a Cat 3 starts at 115 miles an hour. So this is well within the range of becoming a formidable storm. And to see where it might be positioned, it could be over Jamaica. It could be north of Jamaica. It will most likely be south of Jamaica. There's more of the cone on the south side than the north side, so you've got more real estate where that probability is higher. That's why it looks as if, but again, it's an equal chance that it could be on the southern end as on the northern end. But we watch and see how Melissa will move. The one final point.
Yeah.
The center line, we don't often show that, and Brian mentioned that yesterday, Brian Norcross, our hurricane specialist. But that center line, if you notice, it's almost as if there's a southward component to it, right? Not just due west, which is a unique trend to watch for in later updates.
Yeah, I think, the track and the intensity are almost going hand in hand with, I think we know a little bit more about the track.
Yeah, today. I agree. That first scenario we've been showing?
Yeah, I'm going to skip to the second scenario.
Perfect.
Should we move on to mine now, or do you have more? You have more, don't you?
Maybe a few more.
Yes, either
a few more slides.
Okay, well, and then we'll talk scenarios. But yeah, I think to your point, and that's something that the NHC discussed was the trend maybe a little further to the south, and the models that are also indicating that crawling change to the south.
Yeah, and we'll be following it. The one thing that we have is the rain. And Matthew was also mentioning too that, and it's a good point, the idea of these systems rapidly intensifying. Every major hurricane we've seen this season has rapidly intensified. Every major hurricane, so Cat 3 or greater, and the National Hurricane Center is talking about the possibility that this could rapidly intensify too, if it's able to find that spot in the Caribbean, which it looks like it's going to be generally heading toward. But yeah, I really only wanted to show the radar, but it looks like the data has dropped out, so I'm good.
But you know what?
You get the drift up until about an hour ago.
And some of the drifting moisture over Puerto Rico, the West Virgin Islands. So we're going to be watching the rain story evolve. We'll be watching the evolution of Melissa over the coming days. But let's go ahead and talk about some of those scenarios. So we'll take it over to my graphics now. We've divvied this up, trying to find the most sensible way to do so, because there is a lot to get through, right? You have the current state of Melissa, and you have what we could see become of Melissa. And the National Hurricane Center has been very clear when it comes to intensity and track that there remains significant uncertainty when it comes to the long-range outlook with this tropical system. And they are connected. The intensity is very closely related to the ultimate path of this system. When you look at the tropical threat probability, it remains high. It is very high for the next several days in the Central Caribbean. But what we've been paying attention to is this trend over here to the west. But what's complicated is that it's not just a clear drift to the west, and it may not even end in the west, in the central, in Central America. But when you look at the scenarios, it does involve quite a bit of loitering in the Caribbean where it could gain some strength. You have these two areas of high pressure that are just working against each other, that aren't really allowing Melissa to take that escape to the northeast sooner, to the north sooner. That would involve a sooner exit. It would still bring very heavy rain to places like Jamaica, Hispaniola, which includes Haiti to the west, and the Dominican Republic to the east, but it would likely involve a weaker system. If you don't take that exit right away, you continue to see Melissa strengthen. And that's what we're seeing from the National Hurricane Center today, is through the weekend, a gradual strengthening to a Category 3 by Monday. And even the direction of it, I think, falling in line with this. And one of the things that the NHC called out in that discussion, you have halves A, halves B that have trended, these two models right here, trended further to the south. And I think the general track that we have from the NHC is kind of just to the north of that when it comes to the forecast cone. The consensus here, though, still painting a picture that brings it closer to Jamaica.
Yeah, and those HAFS models, I mean, full-blown Cat 5, right, out of Hurricane Melissa. Once it becomes a hurricane, that's a concerning trend. But that would be the sweet spot in the Caribbean, that if Melissa does move over, which is very uncomfortably close to Jamaica, which would be the big concern here, and if we see it. I will mention, too, within their discussion, had a chance to skim it while you were talking, the intensity forecast is a bit higher, uncertain, too, because of the ultimate track. But adjustments upward to the intensity forecast might be needed. So it speaks to the fact that the ceiling for Melissa is not just a Category 3. That ceiling for intensity could be Cat 4, or maybe even Category 5. But that's something that we can resolve in time. I think looking at what it's doing now, slow strengthening, and following its every move, obviously we'll be doing that, and hoping that while there is some agreement with all these big members of various ensemble models, the GFS Euro, Google, and European, the thing still shows some spread, right? There's still some uncertainty.